And tonight on the ABC News, OJ Simpson kills one more person. Oh my god, I can't believe it. OJ kills another person? I didn't know Minute Maid orange juice could kill people. I guess what happened here was that someone poisoned the OJ and, killed somebody. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on ABC, the horrible news in the whole world. Thank you. Well, I hope you liked how I did my commercials. I'm gonna be a star. I've always been a star, I just have to go to Hollywood, and then I'll just, everybody would be like going, oh, I want your autograph, oh, I want your autograph. But anyways, see you later. Adios. Ciao.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hi, how are you doing? It's me and Chandler, or Chandler and I, depending if you want to be a grammar pig or not. So, hey, how are we all doing? It's OJ time again. We are coming down to the wire here. We've only got about 6 months more of closing arguments to go. I figure we've got about a month and a half of closing arguments left. We should be finishing up the prosecution's closing arguments next week. Then the defense will have a go at it for about a month, and then we'll have a couple of weeks of rebuttal, and then it'll be done. So, you got about 2 months of OJ left, and then we're on to a new trial. Yay! So, what's up, everybody? We've got people all over the globe here. How are you doing, Chandler?
I'm sleepy, but I'm awake.
It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
All right, I'm just checking your. There we go. We're all good. I was checking the mic levels and everything. We are awesome and awesomer. Elsie Merritt says I was all right until Donner Sutherland at me through my Amazon Fire TV. Well, it wouldn't be the same. I just thought we'd get Donald Sutherland out of the way. Just get it out of the way early, because you're all gonna miss it when it's gone. Trust me.
It gave me extra time to finish my nails. So.
Oh, well, there you go. I'd ask you what you're up to, but it's like 2:00 in the morning there. So
it's 6:07.
So yes, I know you haven't really done much today. So I have you been up to anything this morning, or was my assumption correct?
Drinking tea, twittering a little bit. Hi, Flux.
Oh, hi, Flux. You're one of our favorite people too. At least you're my favorite person. I wouldn't deign to speak for Chandler. But
I sent Flux a really cute picture of my cats. My cats were sitting together, and one of my cats had his tail curled around the other cat. And she informed me that she showed Mrs. Flux the picture, and that she thought that my pussies were very cute. So Mrs. Flux thought so.
There you go.
So
and we're off to the races.
Complimenting my two pussies.
We're off to the races already today. Awesome. I love OJ Thursdays.
I couldn't.
Well, folks, looks like people are being less viewery than usual today. We've only got 76 people here. People are definitely done with OJ, I think. So we're just going to plow through, because I'm a completionist. I'm going to plow through these damn closing arguments. We'll watch the verdict. Then we're on to a super special, super secret new old trial, I should say, which Chandler chose. So if you like it, then congratulations. If you don't like it, it's her fault. I guess we should make me look like the hero. If we like it, then I get all the glory for agreeing with her and choosing to do it here. If it sucks, it's her fault. So there you go. All glory to me. No, just kidding, Chandler. It's a fun trial. It's actually very, very interesting, and I had completely forgot its existence until Chandler reminded me of it. And I think you'll all like it.
It's fascinating. I'm excited.
You didn't tweet it out that you're live. Well, I should have. It should have gone out. Didn't it go out? Well, that's interesting. Apparently it didn't.
Weird.
So, yes, it's extraordinarily weird because it was set to do so. Well, now I'm curious. Let me see what's going on in the Twitterverse. The drafts are there. Why are there only what? We'll send it out on Saturday, December 28th. 2024? Why is my scheduling in December 2024? Well, you'll get the notice for today's OJ in 2024. The hell? Oh, I know what it did. Because when you schedule things on Twitter, when you schedule tweets, it tweets it out 5 days ahead. So then you have to roll it. If you're going to retweet the same day, if you're going to schedule for something on today's date, you have to roll back the day 5 days. So it's been set for like January 3rd or January 2nd, 2024.
So
I rolled the December back. I rolled the date back, but I didn't roll the year back.
Oh, that's what
that makes sense. Ah, you clever. Well, now I still have until December 27th to remember to delete those. Why doesn't Twitter just defaults get anyway? Stupid Twitter. All right, well, solved that mystery.
I never schedule things on Twitter. I kind of just tweet, as I go along.
I knew OJ would never be over since just dawn.
It feels like it.
It's gonna plague you until 2024. I got a random eyelash hair on my glasses that's driving me nuts. I think we should just kind of jump straight into this, into the Darden closing. You missed the Darden thing last week.
I did. I had to leave early last week. But I forgot to tell anybody. So I just kind of did the Irish exit thing. Sorry about that.
It's markedly like his opening statement where he's just telling you, he's giving you lots of reasons why you shouldn't agree with him and why you shouldn't follow the prosecutor's recommendations, why you shouldn't find him guilty. It's weird. He's soulless. He's unmotivated, and he's telling you exactly the opposite of what he should be. So, hey, let's
use reverse psychology, basically.
No, he's just kind of not very good at it.
Well, unfortunately, they didn't really get the irony, it seems. The jury.
Well, it's just one of those, if we don't do this, then you don't have to side with us. If we don't do this, then you don't have to side. Don't ever be saying that. You should just never say that.
It doesn't really make any sense from a prosecutorial standpoint. It almost sounds like he wanted them to lose and he was sabotaging their efforts.
Yeah, I mean, he should be saying, we proved this, so therefore you should find him guilty. We proved that, so therefore you should find him guilty. Anyway.
I mean, let the defense do it, dude. Seriously. Leave it for the dream team.
Let's bring Mr. Darden up here and to give his uninspiring closing arguments.
All right.
And I think that one of the things that
we're just picking up random midstream where we left off.
Probably gathered from hearing her today is that this case really is a simple case in its essence. When you get down to the
and why did it take 9 months?
This case really is a simple case.
Good question.
All you have to do is use the tools God gave you.
You're a tool.
The tools he gave you to use or utilize whenever you were confronted with a problem or an issue. All you have to do is use your common sense. Now, the defense would have you believe that this is a complex series of facts and evidence and law and science and all of that. Not really.
And this is right after Marcia spent hours and hours and hours talking about the importance of all the scientific evidence.
A case.
And the complexity of the legal arguments, yeah.
He just literally said, ignore all the scientific shit that Marcia just talked about.
You should have been more coordinated.
But there's been a lot of smoke screens, a lot of diversions, a lot of detractions, a lot of distractions. And in some respects, there's been an attempt to get you to lose focus of what the real issues are in this case. And that takes time.
It takes time. I'm
If I
so
could give
into
you any
this.
advice as jurors, any advice at all, I would say to you, use your common sense. When you get all of this evidence and go into the jury room,
Ignore the
and after
science.
you pick a
Don't have to pay
person,
attention to the
take
scientific
that common
evidence.
sense that
Don't worry
God
about all the
gave
legal
you,
arguments.
take
Use
the
your common
evidence
sense. He's
that the
telling the jury
prosecution gave you
that
and
just
the
went, well,
defense
hell,
evidence.
we saw him try to put on the glove, and common sense tells me it didn't fit.
Go into
Why
that
is he
jury room,
doing
sit down,
this?
spread it out, and using that common sense, ask yourself a question. What does the evidence show?
Yeah,
What
pay
does
no
the
attention
evidence
to
show?
the
And when you
racist cop
look
behind the
at it
curtain.
in the simplest terms, what you're going to see is blood in the Bronco, a blood trail from Bundy, blood in his bathroom, blood on his socks.
The bathroom.
Simple evidence. You can look at a chart and see what the DNA results are. It really, really won't be that difficult. When you use your common sense and when you get down to the bottom line, and when you put aside all of the distractions and all of the smoke that has been blown throughout this courtroom and in your direction. Now, it's been a long time since I've had an opportunity to speak to you. And unfortunately, I wasn't
Marcia
here
wouldn't let
during
me
jury
talk.
selection, and so I didn't get a chance to talk to you and introduce myself to you during voir dire. And so
Yeah,
you were
Marcia
sort of
whipped
given
me.
the Darden.
See, again, Chandler, see, that's how we do pronounce the word. As I mentioned last month, this
Voir
is
dire.
evidence that this is how we pronounce it out west. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody, so this is voir dire. Yeah. That's like that's how we pronounce it, because frankly, that's the way God pronounces it too.
It's regional and it's dialectical, and it's also
And it's correct.
Yeah, well, I mean, language changes, it adapts. Is Darden from Utah?
He's from the West. California's in the West. You should know that. You live there.
I did. Yes, I do live here.
I don't know how far west you have to go to have people start pronouncing it correctly, but they do it. They do it in South Carolina and that area too. I think it's just a few hoity-toity people that pronounce it voir dire.
I've heard voir dire more, but it all depends. I mean, like whenever if I've ever gone to court for any reason, I hear voir dire, but that's it depends. They're more pretentious people here in LA, so
we are careful with the earbuds. Yesterday was the first time I put these back on since I had my ear infection. They've been soaked in alcohol, et cetera. We're good. All right, so let's get back to his comments about what happened on voir dire, which is exactly the way you should pronounce that
it's
word.
basically like, ladies and
Fight me.
gentlemen, I know it's been a while since I've been able to talk to you, but I'd really like you to just like make your decision and let me go home and sleep because I'm tired. And this trial has aged me like 10 years.
Throughout this courtroom and in your direction. Now, it's been a long time since I've had an opportunity to speak to you. And unfortunately, I wasn't here during jury selection, and so I didn't get a chance to talk to you and introduce myself to you during voir dire. And so you were sort of given the Darden
God's
shock
pronunciation.
treatment, I guess. You saw me literally the first day you came into the courtroom, the first day we began taking evidence literally, and I got involved in the case, and we didn't get to talk a lot.
Oh,
But let me say this to you in the limited time that I have. You are an amazing group of people. You've been sequestered now longer than any jury in the state of California. I think Judge Ito alluded
sequestered.
to that.
They don't ride horses.
Before. You spent months in sequestration. I guess you haven't been able to watch your favorite television programs or football. Maybe you missed the NBA season, I don't know. But as you sat there in sequestration, the rest of us, these people, we all got on with our lives. We went home every night. We saw our families and our friends. We continued the personal relationships that we had. And you haven't had a chance to do that for 8 months. And all I can say about that is that you are an amazing group of people.
It's literally meant literally.
Because you have paid a very, very significant price. You have made a commitment to justice. You have made a commitment to see to it that this case is resolved fairly and correctly. And you made a commitment to see to it that the law is followed, that the police follow procedure in the law, and that there is no conviction in this case unless the evidence is proven to you, unless its guilt is proven to you beyond a reasonable doubt. And I thank you for that. Because that's what you should do.
They paid
That's
more
what
than
the
the
community
price.
should
They got paid $5 a day for being sequestered for 9
Trial is
months.
supposed to be a search for the truth.
Well, some of them wrote a book.
And sometimes the truth is uncovered or revealed at the end of a long road, at the end of a long journey. And this has been a long journey. But let me say this to you,
$1,300 they got
tonight,
paid,
the
minus
whole world is
taxes.
watching us tonight. They're watching me.
Not much.
And they have listened to the evidence and they watched the witnesses testify here on television.
And free food.
And they want to know what you're going to do. And we want to know what you're going to do.
Yeah, he wants to know what we're going to do. I bet the prosecution wants to know what you're going to do. You know what? That's what a verdict's called. They want to get a verdict. In case you didn't know, the Chandler, the prosecution wants to know what the jury's going to do. Oh my God! Come on, Darden. Fuck, he's falling asleep. Jesus.
This man needs a deep tissue massage and a happy ending to get him back to life. Maybe some, I don't know, meth or something. He really needs to be like some crack. You know, I mean, I know there was a really big crack problem in LA in the 80s, 90s, and I feel like he should have just gone into the evidence locker. He could have easily taken it out. It should would have been way too easy in the 90s. He's falling asleep here.
But this is exactly how he gave his opening statements too. Just like there's a bunch of blood and a couple guys got murdered in front of a house, and there's like a dog barking, and the neighbors were there, and then he came and he was something about an airport and guilty.
I wonder if he looks back on the trial and wishes that he delivered his lines differently.
This is just exactly the all right. Unhung Hero with $2 kicking off the Super Chat Fest, which is now up to 1 Super Chat. Unhung Hero, thank you so much for the Super Chat. The glove didn't. Oh, see, you missed it by this much, Unhung Hero. You should have said the glove didn't fitted, so they acquitted. That's what you should have said. The glove didn't fitted, so they acquitted. Thank you so much for that. Let's acquit Darden of having a personality. The talk was useless. It didn't call 911.
Those who think that justice in this case would be to just ignore the evidence and say he's not guilty.
What?
Some people think that justice in this case would be to just jump to some conclusion, some silly conclusion, some conclusion not based on the law.
You see, it would be this mat that you would put on the floor and would have different conclusions written on it that you could jump to.
All right, sorry.
It's a terrible idea. It's the worst idea I've ever heard.
Justice in this case would be to just jump to some conclusion, some silly conclusion, some conclusion not based on the law.
Well, that's a rather personal question, American Dreamer.
Some people think that because the defendant in this case is a celebrity, that perhaps he is somewhat above the law, that there ought to be special rules for him.
He's just giving you
somehow he should be treated differently than any
even
other
Barry
defendant.
Scheck's like, what the hell? He's just said
justice.
3 times. Maybe some of you think
people
justice
think
should
that
be to let him
because
go. He
Fuhrman
said
is
it
a
3
racist.
times. Oh, racist, yes.
So we ought to chuck the law out of the window, throw it out of the window. But perhaps it shouldn't be applied in this case. Well, that's wrong. And that's not why we're here, because we don't ignore the law just because of the status of a defendant, because of who he is or because of who he knows.
What a doofus.
That isn't justice. You're here to ensure justice. I'm here to ensure justice. And we all know the rules. And the rules say, and the law says that he should not kill, that he should not have killed these 2 people. And the law says that if you believe that he killed these 2 people, and if you believe that it has been proven to you beyond a reasonable doubt, that you should find him guilty. You heard Marcia Clark, and you've heard the evidence, and you've seen the evidence.
The evidence you just told us to
And
ignore?
You're reasonable people. And you know, we know. I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, we know. And it's unfortunate.
Now, he's been talking for
What we
approximately
know.
30
What
minutes,
we know is the truth. And
all
the truth
told,
that we know
counting back to next week.
is that he killed these two people.
And he hasn't connected. Calls for a conclusion. Yeah. Ooh. He hasn't said one thing that
This man,
connects
this
one piece of
defendant,
evidence
OJ Simpson.
to another to OJ.
We believe that given the state and the quality of the evidence, is
Like
guilty.
what evidence? Talk about it.
And there's nothing wrong with voting guilty in this case, given the state of the evidence and the quality of the evidence.
What evidence?
A vote of guilty in this case isn't a vote for any interest group in particular. Or
You
any
mean for
interest
black
group at all.
people?
It
Is that
isn't-
what you're saying?
It isn't a vote for the prosecution, for Marsha and I. It certainly isn't a vote for the LAPD. And it's not a vote against anyone. It's not a vote against the defendant. It's not a vote for the victims or the victim's family.
Oh my God, he again just threw the LAPD under the bus. A guilty verdict certainly isn't a vote in favor of those shitty people we put on the stand. Oh my God.
My friend, you chose your witnesses. You made a decision. You put Mark Fuhrman on the stand.
Yeah.
You made your bed. Now you have to lie in it. And
So,
unfortunately, you're calling attention to the thing that you don't want to be calling attention to.
After
Just like
Marsha
Marsha
Clark
did.
called attention to it for like an
God,
hour.
it's been so. She was like, "Is he a racist? Yeah. Is he the best that LA has to offer? No." It's like, stop making yourself look like a genius by asking easy questions that you can answer. Like, no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Just don't talk about Mark Fuhrman.
The Willie Boss says he defend Ant related to it's Adam, ADAM, like Adamant.
I love Adamant. Adamant is a lot of fun.
Adamant is.
Like adamant.
I don't think they're related though.
No, I don't think so either.
But just remember, don't drink, don't smoke.
I was just thinking of that song. Once read is subtle innuendo follows. Oh God, my inner theater kid is coming out. Suppress.
Don't drink, don't smoke. Anyway,
Must be
Go on to that
something
jury
inside.
room, open mind,
You don't follow
and
fashion.
fairly and conscientiously consider this evidence. And then cast a ballot, a vote for guilt or innocence, based only on the evidence that you've seen in this case and only on the law given to you by Judge Ito. When you cast a vote on that basis,
okay, name another Adamant
you're
song
voting for
without
justice.
cheating.
You're
I
voting for
can't.
fairness. You're doing the right thing under the law.
Prince Charming.
And that's what we're going to ask you to do.
See, I couldn't do that. Like literally, Goody Two Shoes is the only Adamant song I can think of.
And all of
Really?
that good stuff. I know you've heard all
I had
of that
albums.
before.
I think I have an album right
But
here.
we just have to believe, Marsha
I have
Clark
them
and I, that
on
justice
vinyl.
is blind in this case. There have been lots of issues. Lots of issues that came up in this trial. This trial has
God.
been an amazing experience. I'm sure you would agree. But even though there are a lot of small issues, a lot of other issues, a lot of
There's a cartoon
distractions
called
here and there,
Atom Ant. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Did not know
we're
that.
here to address a single
I
issue.
think I've heard of that.
This is a single case.
Hey,
One
Jan.
issue, did the defendant kill these two people?
Probably.
One
I don't know.
defendant, OJ Simpson. You heard from the defense in this case, and they
Up and at them.
presented testimony about slurs, epithets, as they call them.
You mean from the racist cop you put on the
Bunch of
stand?
nasty, hateful, low down language.
From our witness?
Used by Mark Fuhrman.
Our
I'm not even gonna
witness?
call him Detective Fuhrman if I can help it, because he doesn't deserve
Oh,
that
Jesus.
title. He doesn't warrant that kind of respect. Not from me.
Watch Barry Sheck going,
But
what
this isn't
the
the case of
hell?
Mark Fuhrman. This is the case of OJ Simpson. Fuhrman, if I can help it, because he doesn't deserve that title. He doesn't warrant that kind of respect.
You can see his brows
Not for
furrowed
me.
through the blur of the camera. It's like, what?
Yep.
But this isn't the case of Mark Fuhrman. This is the
Ki-
case of OJ
kinda
Simpson.
is.
And let me say this to you,
Is it
if
the
you
case
will
of Ben
allow me
Stone?
to, and I don't mean to offend you or demean you, and I hope that you don't feel that I am. But this is the case of OJ Simpson, not Mark Fuhrman. The case of Mark Fuhrman, if there's to be a case, that's a case for another forum.
Stop talking
Not
about
necessarily
him.
a case for another day, because today may be the day. But it is a case for another forum. Another jury, perhaps. This case is about this defendant, OJ Simpson, and the M word, murder.
The M word.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
And you know what that is.
Really, really bad, Darden.
I want to ask you to.
Oh,
The M word?
Consider the fact of his misstatements or lies or untruths, however you want to term it, because you have to consider that. That's the law. You have to consider everything Fuhrman said on the witness stand, because that's evidence in this case, and I want you to consider it. I want you to consider all the evidence. So don't think that I'm.
All right. I just got to call out Darden again. I know it's just like shooting fish in a pond or shooting fish in a barrel at this point.
Yeah.
We have the if it does not fit, you must acquit versus this is about the M word, not the N word.
Yeah, that one didn't catch on, really.
Yeah, that did it?
No.
So all of you that think that he should have been found guilty, next time someone says, if it does not fit, you must acquit, say, no, it's about the M word, not the N word, and see how that goes.
Ridiculous.
It's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he spent a good 5 minutes talking about what a piece of shit their witness was. Not good.
Let us focus on how we screwed up our own case.
I wonder if Cochran was tempted to just stand up and say, what he said. Just sit down again.
It just makes me so embarrassed for the city of Los Angeles that this was, I mean, we had an unlimited budget and this is the best that we had to offer. I mean, really? Really? Come on. Ugh.
Well, this was after what Gil Garcetti had left the office at that point. Maybe it was the best. I don't know. Who knows? But just yeah, one slogan you can wear on a T-shirt in public. Oh dear. F word, this R worded, C word, N word, please. Wow.
Saying, hey, just overlook it. Just overlook what he said. Just overlook.
Oh, excuse me.
The fact
He's
that he
still
lied about having
talking.
used that slur in the past.
He's
10
still
years.
talking about Mark Fuhrman. I thought he was done. Sorry, my bad.
But I am asking you to put it in the proper perspective. You decide what it's worth. You decide what it means. If it helps you in assessing his credibility, and it should, or his lack of credibility, I don't know, then you use it.
I don't know.
Please just remember, Fuhrman isn't the only issue.
No, Gil Garcetti was still the DA in LA for 5 years after this.
Not the only issue in this case.
Weird.
And you have to be concerned about that. I have to be concerned about as a lawyer for the prosecution in this case, because it apparently was a very, very significant event for the defense. I mean, you saw all those people that came up to testify about Fuhrman's use of this word. And then at one point, you heard a tape of Fuhrman. And that was Fuhrman, by the way. Okay, no doubt about that. Using those
Jesus,
slurs.
they're still talking about
Stop talking about
you heard a tape of
him.
him using those slurs. And it had to make you angry to hear him say that. Made us angry.
You forget that 2 people died.
But that wasn't enough.
Come
Not only
on.
did you get to hear the words, you were given the transcript was scrolled across the Elmo. Remember? So you could hear it and you could see it, but that wasn't enough. You had to have a transcript for some reason of the words as well. A lot of emphasis on that. I don't know why. I know you do. But it's evidence, just like all the other evidence in the case. Attach whatever value you think is appropriate. I would say use it to assess his credibility. Any other use you want to put to it, look to the law, look to the instructions that the judge gives you. Ms. Clark mentioned to you that I was going to talk to you about domestic violence. And I'd like to do that right now if I can. And I did that, I suppose, when I began speaking with you back on January the 24th. Was it the 24th? Yeah. That's a long time ago. You're probably like me. You didn't think it would ever go on this long.
Oh, God, no, we didn't.
We're almost there. It's almost over. We believe that this evidence of domestic violence is very important. It's important that you understand the nature of this man's relationship with one of the victims in this case. It's important because when you consider it, it may help explain to you or it may suggest to you his motive for killing Nicole Brown and perhaps his motive for killing Ron Goldman as well. And the law allows you to use this evidence as you attempt to determine whether or not there was a motive to kill. Can you have Calgic 2.51? And as we search for the motive jury instruction, let me say to you that you can use it for other reasons, for other purposes. This evidence is being given to you with certain limitations, I suppose. And the judge will explain to you what those limitations are. But you can use this evidence to determine whether there's a motive to kill. You can use this evidence to help in the sense of
don't think I'm not trying.
you're deciding whether or not
I might be sick that day if you end up having a moment.
and if you find that it helps in terms of identification, the identification of this defendant as the person that killed these two people. Wrong one. You can use it.
What?
But when you look at this jury instruction entitled Evidence of Other Crimes, you see here at the bottom where it says a motive for the commission of the crime charged. You see that you can use this evidence for that purpose. Evidence of other crimes, the 1989 spousal battery incident. You can use that to look to see if there is evidence of a motive. But there's also something called Calgic 2.51, and it's entitled Motive, and it reads as follows. Let me read it to you. First of all, it says that motive is not an element of the crime charged and need not be shown. And that's important. Ms. Clark talked to you about premeditation and malice and forethought and whether the killing is willful and deliberate and all of that. We don't have to prove to you that the defendant had a motive to kill.
Even though you spent a great deal of
We don't
time
have to
talking
prove
about
that at all.
motive.
It just so happens that in this case, we have that kind of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
The
So
motive
we
is
don't
not
have to,
an
but we
element
did.
of the offense
Okay.
charged. And
Makes sense.
2.51 also says that the presence of motive may tend to establish guilt. If you find that we have presented sufficient evidence of motive, then you should use that evidence as you attempt to determine whether or not the defendant is
He's a
guilty.
really bad speaker. He just
Yeah.
is.
But
Yeah.
you can use this domestic violence evidence for a number of reasons and in a number of ways. And when I spoke to you back in January, I told you, I promised you, I think, that I would expose to you the other side of this man, of this defendant. I promised you that I would expose to you the private side of him, that part of him, the side of him was capable of extreme rage, jealousy, and violence. And I said to you back then, I said to you and I asked of you that you consider the nature of their relationship, his relationship with Nicole. Because to understand what happened at Bundy, you need to know what happened between them during the 17-year period that they were together, off and on. Because when you look at that, you see a motive for killing. Now, I'm sure the defense is going to get up here at some point and say, that domestic violence evidence is irrelevant. And they may say to you that just because this defendant had some marital discord or violence and his marriage to Nicole Brown that it doesn't mean anything.
Again, telling them
because
the opposite of what he wants them to decide.
This is a because issue. Okay. It is because he hit her in the past, because he slapped her and threw her out of the house and kicked her and punched her and grabbed her around the neck. It's because he did these things to her in the past that you ought to know about it and consider it. And it's because he used a baseball bat to break the windshield of a Mercedes back in 1985.
10 years ago before this.
It's because he kicked her door down in 1993. You remember the Gretna Green incident? Remember the 911 call? It's because of a letter he wrote to Nicole rather, around June the 6th, talking about the IRS. It's because he stalked her, because he looked through her windows one night in April of 1992.
He's a peeper.
They may say that the defendant's just looking through a window late at night. We say that's stalking. It's because of all those things, and because all of these things alongside the physical evidence at the scene, the bloody shoe prints in his thighs, the blood drops at Bundy, the blood on his sock, the blood trail to Rockingham. It's because when you look at all of that, it all points to him. See, I'm not afraid to point to him. Nobody's pointed him out and said, he did it. I'll point to him. And why not? The evidence all points to him.
I'll point to him. Why not? All the evidence points to him. That is so stupid.
My mouth is getting dry. Are these murders?
Well, I think this is a good point, actually.
Pointed out that
the pattern of behavior
were rage killings. Rage.
Yeah, but, just don't say it's like rage killing. Rage.
That's the problem. The problem is that he's actually presenting something important and significant, and it's so my theory on the case is I do think that OJ is, was responsible, and I think that the domestic violence pattern is significant, and I think that's some of the strongest evidence in the case, because a man or a woman who has a repeated pattern of violating boundaries, being violent, committing crimes, that sort of thing, those sort of outbursts, it shows a lack of control, and it does lead to violence, and especially I'm pretty sure she was choked at one point. That definitely also can lead to homicide. And so I don't
see. Did you hear him mention that? Did you even hear him mention that just now?
No. And that's the thing. I mean,
the thing is, he did he even went, and he choked her.
See, if I'd actually, maybe I'll do a project. I think I'd like to put together what my closing argument would be for this case, and I would do it from the perspective of Nicole Brown Simpson and talk about the relationship that she lived through and the domestic violence that she lived through. Because make no mistake, she lived through domestic violence. I absolutely believe there was domestic violence, and it was a repeated pattern of domestic violence. She had, young kids. It was a scary situation for her. So, this is important information. And the problem is he's not delivering it in a way that's compelling, and nobody in the jury is really going to care. What Marcia should have done was she should have talked about, that element from, female violence, survivor perspective, like women who survived this sort of thing, but Nicole did not. Like, it wasn't emotional or compelling enough. You need to bring it back to the victims, I think, especially when you're in criminal law.
I mean, especially with him, like you even totally missed it. It was like right after you mentioned the baseball bat on the Mercedes window, and then because he's like, and then there's evidence that he choked her, and then like this thing, it's all this horrible stuff's happening. It's really horrible.
Statistically, 10% of people who are choked by their partners end up being killed by them later on. And that was something that happened in the Sarah Boone case, and that's something that happened here. And there, there was the 911 call where she's, it's like screaming, terrified for her life. That's why I believe that he did it. And it's very convincing to me that he.
And as far as he mentioned that, he just said, I remember the 911 call.
Yeah, exactly.
And he moved on to the next sentence.
I mean, honestly, dude needed to get some cocaine or some Adderall, something in his system to wake him up. Some fucking coffee. I mean, Jesus.
And but he's talking about the rage.
I mean, it makes me angry. Can I just say one more thing? You know, the thing is that, you know, it's the people versus OJ. And why? Because there are two victims. There are two people who got killed here. And, you know, if he's going to represent that the defendant is guilty and should be found guilty, he needs to bring it back to the victims, because the victims' families are sitting there in court wanting justice for their loved ones who were brutally slain in a hideous way, in a very violent way. And he's absolutely not advocating on behalf of those people who were citizens of Los Angeles who died a horrible death. And it's just horrific to me that, you know, that he's so disimpassioned, because this is a murder case. This is the time. I mean, this is the trial of the century. You're put on the spot, and this is how you deliver? Seriously, Chris Darden? I just can't with this guy. I can't imagine being involved in a case for this long, but he just has no passion, no charisma, nothing. And no wonder they didn't find. I mean, you come on, you're the black guy. You're the Johnny Cochran of your team. Like, you gotta step it up, dude. So disappointing. It makes me really angry, actually.
I noticed.
Anyway, go on. You press play.
I noticed. J.A. says, hi, LVCR and all. Glad to see everyone as well. Glad to see you here, J.A. Thanks for joining. And Whiskey 77, thank you so much, sir. I'm confused. I thought this was about murder, not masturbation. Well, there is more than one M word out there. Just so you know. An American Dreamer. Jeff, do you remember having the same impressions when you watched this the first time? Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's fun to go back and see the things that I don't remember, but yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I was like the one guy. Well, we'll talk about it once we get to the verdict, but I was like the one guy that openly cheered when they came back with the verdict, because I thought it was a just and fair and proper verdict, which of course, because they showed the verdict live in the moot courtroom in law school, and like everybody was in the moot courtroom watching the verdict live, and there was like all three of the local TV stations or four local TV stations there, and I just gave a big yeah, and then of course that drove all the cameras on me, and my father was aghast that I made the news that evening.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have done that personally, but you know, to each their own.
It was the correct verdict. It's justice. You know,
justice wasn't served, and it's because of the LAPD, because of their corruption. They fixed this case. Evidence
justice for the victims may not have been served.
No,
depending how you believe, but justice for the system, I think, was preserved.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's kind of the sad part of this whole thing. It's really screwed up. Yeah, it's a really screwed up case. But there, I mean, he should have been found not. He should have been found not guilty, even though I do think he was responsible and committed these crimes.
I mean, you have to say to yourself, well, who in the past has ever raised a hand to this woman?
Rage.
Who, during the days and the hours leading to her death, was upset with her?
Rage.
And as Ms. Clark alluded to earlier, you're too kind.
You're too kind? What?
What does it mean?
And as Ms. Clark alluded to earlier, the killing was personal. The way it was done. The way it was done, this is personal. Somebody had a score to settle.
Tell us how it was done. Make us feel it.
Oh, score to settle? Score to settle is not a good way to phrase it.
When you look at all of that, you look at the domestic violence, the manner of the killing, the physical evidence, the history of abuse in their relationship, the intimidation, the stalking.
Talk about how many times she was stabbed. Talk about how the slash across the throat was so fucking deep it scratched her spinal column. There were knife marks on her spinal column. Talk about that when you're saying it's personal. Not just personal.
Remind the jury how violent this was.
But it was important to Nicole Brown. You heard Detective Mark Fuhrman testify about the 1985 incident. Let me say, Fuhrman. Let me All right. I've said Fuhrman about 50 times. Let me let you know this. We're not hiding.
You could just say you recall the testimony.
He's too big, especially now.
Just talk about the testimony.
Fuhrman testified. Fuhrman described for you the 1985 domestic violence or domestic abuse incident or incident of violence or incident of abuse or disturbing the, disturbing the peace incident, whatever you want to call it. But in 1985, Detective Fuhrman was not a detective. I just call him Detective Chief. Fuhrman was a patrol officer, and he went to 360 North Rockingham in response to a call. And you recall the testimony. He saw Nicole sitting on a Mercedes, as I recall. The window was bashed out. The fenders were dented. There was a baseball bat nearby. The defendant was walking along the driveway. Fuhrman had a conversation with the defendant.
Doesn't matter that it was Mercedes. They're just going to be like, oh,
Nicole
she was rich.
Crying. Her face was covered with her hair. She was holding her hands to her face. You remember that testimony. That was 10 years ago.
You didn't have to bring up Fuhrman in relation
to that. 360 North Rockingham.
Every time he says Fuhrman, he's
in response to that call. That's 1985. 1994, Nicole's dead. When you look at the relationship.
Okay, just. And then this happened, and then 10 years later, 1995.
Nicole's dead.
Yeah, 1995, Nicole's dead. Next sentence.
Between these two. And you reflect back on the testimony from Christian Breitbart, and you think about the 911 calls and Officer Edwards, and you think about the day of the recital.
Tell us what the words were. Tell us what happened the day of the recital.
Brown, what she had to say about.
What did Denise Brown have to say?
That time at the Red Onion when he grabbed her by the crotch in front of a bar full of strangers and said, "This is where my babies come from. This is mine." Remember that testimony?
So he grabbed her by the pussy, and you're not
this relationship between this man and Nicole.
This man?
It's like a time bomb ticking away. Just a matter of time. Just a matter of time before something really bad happened. You know, you meet people in life, and there are people with short fuses. You know, they just go off. And there are others with longer fuses. You know, it takes them a little while longer to go off. And relationships are the same way sometimes, you know, especially violent, abusive relationships like this one. This thing was like a fuse. It was a bomb with a long fuse. And there were incidents along the way. And along the way, as each incident occurred, that fuse got shorter. If nothing else, that fuse was lit in 1985. That night when he took that baseball bat to her car. And we don't know the reasoning behind his decision to do that. We only know that he did. But when you stop and you look at it and you consider the conduct, breaks the windshield, dents the car up, use of a baseball bat, that's a pretty novel approach. The wife is seated on top of the car crying, face covered, hair over her face. If nothing else, look at it this way. What message does that send to Nicole? I mean, what are we going to do with this evidence? How do we evaluate this when a man takes a baseball bat to his wife's car and just beats the...
Don't keep talking about something that happened 10 years before the murder. Talk about the murder.
It instills fear. Wouldn't you agree? And would you agree that it suggests to her that this can happen to you? That maybe you'll be next? See, that fuse is burning. It's burning in 1985. It is burning in 1985, and 1985 was the year of their marriage. The fuse is lit, it's burning, but it's a slow burn.
Yes, we know that.
We next go to 1989. You heard from Denise Brown on the incident, you know, she testified about 1989. Detective Edwards testified about 1989. I said before, you got to.
What happened in 1989? Tell us what happened in 1989, for God's sake.
Is the jury going to remember what happened
Because
in
when you
1989?
do, you see a pattern developing here. You see that fuse is lit. In 1989, it was New Year's night, and it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And as I recall, we called to the witness stand a 911 operator. And her name was Sharon Gilbert. And that night, that morning, she received a call. The caller never identified herself. The line was left open. The call came in, the line was left open. The 911 operator stayed on the line and listened in. And as she testified here at the trial, if you stay on long enough, if you're the 911 operator, you get a fix on the origin, the address, from where the call is coming. She stayed on the line. She determined that the call was coming from 360 North Rockingham. And she listened in for a few moments. You recall that tape? Can I play that for you? It only takes a couple seconds. You have that tape? Is that People's One? And this is People's One. This is the first exhibit I marked for you in this case 8 months ago. I stood before you back in January. I said to you that if you listen carefully to that tape, and you have the tape in the jury room, you put it in a tape recorder, and when you listen to it, listen carefully, because you can hear in the background the sound of someone being struck or slapped. And that's what the 911 operator heard. And she told you on the witness stand that she heard that. She heard the sound, the noise of someone being beaten, and she put that out on the radio. Recall that? She put it out on the radio that there was a woman being beaten.
How do you know it was a woman being beaten?
Now, they may say that this isn't important evidence. I say they're wrong. There's physical abuse here, wife beating here, spousal abuse, spousal battery going on. And this is an emergency situation. And Sharon Gilbert, the 911 operator, puts this call out, code 2.
Either it was 9 months. Imagine that.
Get somebody to 360 North Rockingham fast. And they do. And they do. About 4 o'clock in the morning, Officer Edwards arrives at 360 North Rockingham. You call Officer Edwards, he and his partner. They drove up they drove up Ashford. They passed the Ashford gate. They stopped at Rockingham where he saw the call box. He got out of his patrol car and he pushed the button at the call box, and a voice responded on the other side. It was the voice of the maid at that time, Michelle Abderrahman. Officer Edwards identified himself, told Michelle that he was there in response to a 911 call and that he needed to speak to the person that made the call. Michelle said, hey, there's no problem here. Don't worry about it. Go on about your way. But Officer Edwards was persistent, and he said, no, I'm not leaving until I speak to the person that made that call. And as he spoke to Michelle Abderrahman, someone ran out of the bushes in the dark. Do you remember that testimony? You heard it. It was here. Someone ran from the bushes in the dark. It was a woman with blonde hair. She was wearing a bra. She was wearing a bra and pajamas or sweatpants. And that woman came running from the bushes in the darkness toward the gate where the call box was. And she was yelling something. She was shouting something. Do you remember what she was shouting? Remember what the testimony was in this case? She was shouting, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. And she shouted this 4 or 5 times as she arrived at that button and began pushing that button to get out of that gate, to get off that property, to get out of his house.
Why didn't he play that part for the jury? That would have been
and as
emotional.
Officer Edwards stood there, on the street side, on the Rockingham
played it
side
on
of that
TV.
gate, looking at her on the opposite side of the gate, what did he see? He saw that she was covered with mud. She was panicked. As Officer Edwards put it, she was hysterical. And she's hitting that button, trying to open that gate to get out of there, and she's yelling to him, "He's going to kill me." And what did Officer Edwards say? What did he say? Who? Who's going to kill you? He didn't see anybody running behind him. Who? Who is going to kill you? And what did she say? OJ. OJ Simpson. The gate finally opened. She ran through the gate. She ran to Officer Edwards. And she fell in his arms and collapsed.
He's really a crap storyteller.
And she said, "He's going to kill me." And she just kept repeating. Well, at that point, Officer Edwards shined his flashlight on her face. You remember the testimony?
Stop asking if they remember the testimony. Tell them.
When he shined that
Okay, here's the thing. This is a thing that we, we do in legal writing sometimes. People will say, as you recall, this happened in a letter. You don't want to write that, because if they don't recall, they feel stupid. So you say, as you may recall, or if you refer to our previous email, you might recall. We shouldn't be saying, do you remember? Do you remember? Do you remember? Because if they're going, no, I don't remember. It makes them feel stupid. It makes them feel dumb. It makes them feel like you're not paying attention. Just tell them. Don't ask them if they remember it. Nobody likes to go, oh, I don't remember. I wasn't here. Nobody likes to feel that way.
And if they don't remember, then you're making an assumption that they do remember, and you're not giving them all the pertinent information. Remind them again, and again, and again. Drive that point home. Make it overkill. I mean, God, I've never litigated. I'm not an attorney, but Jesus, this is really weak. I could do a better job than him on like 4 hours of sleep and, one cup of tea.
I mean, very, very generally, you can bring in prior bad acts if they establish a pattern, knowledge of how to do something, etc. Like a modus operandi, so things like that. So there's a history of this. It shows a pattern. It shows a series of behaviors, etc. Those are some exceptions.
On her face. He saw that her eye was starting to blacken. The right side of her forehead was swollen. There was an imprint with some sort of a swollen mark on her right cheek. Did I say? And he also said that she had a handprint. He saw a handprint on the left side of her neck, on the left side of her throat. A handprint. Someone had grabbed this woman, his wife, by the neck, hard enough to leave an imprint around her neck, an imprint in the shape of his hand. Let me say this to you. We submit to you that the hand that left that imprint.
We have a Mo raid.
Same hand.
Mo, thank you so much. Mo joiners.
On June 12th.
We're just chilling, watching OJ closing argument.
It was the defendant.
I miss Mo's special meatloaf recipe. I'll have to go back and watch.
It's the defendant now. And at that point,
Danny, good morning to you too.
Danny, good morning. Oh, I'm so happy to see you.
She said a series of things.
Don't handle mediation like Chris Darden is handling this closing.
Remember, keep in mind that she was hysterical. She was upset.
God, listen again. Yeah, keep in mind she was hysterical. She was upset. Yeah, just don't forget she was hysterical. Just got a little acting, a little passion, a little inflection in your voice. This
woman was abused. She was afraid for her life. She called begging people to help her, saying, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. And nobody heard her cries. And in the end, the way that people ignored her cries for help ended up being fatal. And it is because of OJ Simpson, ladies and gentlemen, that we are here today. I mean, come on. Sorry.
But he's telling everybody that she was enraged and she was hysterical and there was problems. Don't worry, he's communicating.
I'm sure that she was in fear, because she must have been in fear, because she was running through the night covered with mud in a bra and in her pajamas.
Also, when you talked about having a score to settle, that doesn't sound.
She said to Officer
that reminds
Edwards,
one of the whole, drug
she
theory.
said something very important to Officer Edwards. She said,
"You score to settle. She did something to him first, and he wanted revenge for it.
You come out
Columbia
here.
necktie.
Yeah.
You've been out here.
Whiskey 77 says Brooks had a better closing.
And you never do anything about it.
Probably. Cops have been out there 7 times, and they never do anything about it.
That's what she told Officer Edwards that day.
Yes, that is Mystery Science Theater, people.
She said, you've been out here 8 times.
In the not too distant future.
They want to tell you that the police conspired against OJ Simpson.
Well, they did.
Nicole says they'd been out there 8 times before and never did anything to him. I don't know. But let me ask you this. How many times does it take? If they'd been out there 8 times before that night, then that night was the 9th time.
Yes, KT, I've been watching it for 3 days.
No one had ever done anything to him before. I don't know why that is.
Like nonstop.
But what do you think? Do you think it's time that perhaps this time we ought to do something?
Yeah, this time.
8 is enough. If
It's a
8
great
isn't
show.
enough, 9 is certainly enough. Nicole said it with her own mouth back then. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. And sure enough, he has.
You think she said it like
I
that? He's
even
gonna
got-
kill me. He's gonna kill
I
me.
even got Chandler to
Well,
watch
after she
some of the
makes these
MST3K
spontaneous
episodes.
statements to,
Well, I've been watching
Officer
MST3K
Edwards
since
after
I was a
she
baby.
complains
I love
that they've
that
been
show.
out
I
there
mean,
8
I'm
times
the
before and they've
thing
never
this
done
week.
anything to him.
It's been fun.
This man, the defendant, see, and we're seeing the defendant at home at this point, okay? We're seeing that private side of him, that private side that I told you I'd show you. He comes out of his house and he's wearing a bathrobe. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, nothing wrong with that. And he speaks to Officer Edwards. Now, when he speaks to Officer Edwards, does he ask him, how's my wife? No. Does he say, I hope I didn't hurt her? Too
Well, why the
badly?
fuck would he say
Why
that?
would he say that?
No. What does he say? What does he do? He humiliates her. Remember what he said? He said, I don't want that woman in my bed anymore. I got 2 other women.
Based.
I don't want that woman in my bed anymore.
That's
That was his response.
just the way the
This is Nicole's
nonchalant
wife. She's
way
been
he's
his wife for
delivering
years.
this shit is driving me up a
And you recall
wall.
Officer Edwards' testimony
It's killing me.
that this defendant, he was angry. He was mad. He was fit to
He
be
was
tied.
angry that day, my friends.
And he was yelling at Officer Edwards. And the defendant was on one side of the gate. He was on the Rockingham side, on his own property. Officer Edwards was on the other side of the gate. And there they are, speaking to each other on opposite sides of the gate. And the defendant is yelling these things to Officer Edwards about his wife, saying these kinds of things about his wife to Officer Edwards, who is a stranger. And Officer Edwards said to the defendant, your wife has been battered. She is injured. I'm going to have to arrest you. Well, that just set the defendant off again, just set him off. Let me tell you something, the fuse is burning. The fuse is burning, folks. The fuse is burning. And at some point, this fuse is going to run out. It's going to play out. It's
Chandler,
gonna
is
be
the
so
fuse
short
burning?
and so close to the bomb that at some point this bomb is going to
Yeah.
explode.
I
And
think
what
the
does
fuse is
defendant say
burning.
when Officer Edwards says to him, I'm going to have to arrest you. I'm going to have to take you to jail. What does the defendant say? He says the same thing Nicole said, in a sense. He says to Officer Edwards, this is what the defendant said. You recall his testimony. Officer Edwards heard the defendant say, you've been up here 8 times before And now you're going to arrest me for this? Now, let's just think about that for a moment. If nothing else, we now have the confirmation that we need. That is the confirmation of the fact that the police have been there 8 times before. But what is this part about? And now you're going to arrest me for this. What does that mean? What does that mean? Now you're going to arrest me for this, but you've been up here 8 times before, and
All the other incidents were worse. I mean,
I
it
don't
does
know.
sound
I mean,
bad.
this is the evidence in the case. You're going to have to decide what that means. You can interpret what he says. You don't have to just take it literally. You decide what that means.
No, tell them what it
means a couple
means.
of things.
No, don't tell them a couple. Tell them what it means from your point
And
of
after he
view.
said that,
Oh, he's not gonna tell us
complained Officer
anything.
Edwards about the fact
Fuck
that he's
me.
going to be arrested for beating his wife. He says to Officer Edwards, "This is a family matter. It's a family matter and nothing more." Well, wife beating is not just a family matter.
Kind of was in the 90s,
I mean, is this something we
unfortunately.
ought to take seriously?
That's the problem here.
That's one thing about spousal abuse. You know what happens. And it always happens behind closed doors. And you know what they say, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. And we don't know everything that went on behind the gates of this man's estate at Rockingham. But we do know this, that whatever it was, whatever went on there had gone on 8 times prior to this time. Right? We know that. But he says it's a family matter. He minimizes what has
You
happened.
can say,
He
we
don't
know
care
what
about
happened on
this
the front
woman.
lawn
He didn't care
at
about what he
Bundy.
did to her. Well, Officer Edwards gives him the star streak and he tells him,
Don't
"Hey,
call her this
I'm gonna
woman.
take
Call
you
her
to jail.
Nicole Brown
Go
Simpson.
back in the house and
Humanize
get
her.
dressed."
Urkel was a family. That's pretty funny.
Oh, that's good.
That's funny.
Well, Officer Edwards did not insist on arresting him right then and there, and at that point, he let him go in the house alone to get dressed. Now, apparently, that's what the defendant did, because a few minutes later, he came back out, yelling,
Wearing clothes?
complaining,
Wow.
and moaning, complaining about being arrested and saying more derogatory things about his wife in front of this stranger.
What else did you say? Be specific.
Well, in the meantime, Officer Edwards had sent for a second car, a second police vehicle, a transport vehicle, because he was going to transport Nicole to the station in one car, and they were going to arrest this man and take him to the station in another car.
Well, at least they didn't put him in the same
And
car.
as that second police car arrived, and as Officer Edwards turned his attention toward that second police car, that meant that he turned his attention away from the defendant. And what did the defendant do? Remember the testimony? Remember what happened?
He ran through an airport?
Long time. What did he do? Jumped in the car and he ran. Remember that? He went out the other gate. In the Bentley. He ran. He drove away. He got away. He didn't get arrested. He avoided responsibility that day for having done what he did to Nicole.
Well, that sounds like an LAPD problem.
Yeah.
Responsibility is
It
an
kind of
important
does.
word. Isn't that one of the words we teach I know I teach my kids about responsibility.
God, can you imagine him teaching his kids about responsibility? Now be responsible.
You have to tell them. You have to let your
Responsibility
kids
is
know
important,
Hey.
kids.
you do an act. You got to accept responsibility.
If you shake
You
him
gotta
more than
accept the
twice, you're playing
consequences.
with it.
Well, he didn't accept the consequences that day. He didn't accept responsibility. He jumped in that Bentley. He drove away. He snuck off. He avoided responsibility. He got away.
I'm sorry,
from
how
the
do you
police.
sneak off in a Bentley?
That's a
They
good
tried
question.
to catch him. They couldn't.
I'm pretty sure a cop car can go faster than a Bentley.
Well, we caught him this time.
But we're not very good at catching
Well,
him.
after the defendant got away, Edwards asked Nicole to go down to Parker Center, to come from Rockingham all the way downtown to Parker Center so that he could have some professional photographs taken of her injuries. But she refused. You remember
Took
what
her to
she said?
Photo
She
Studio
said, "No,
Express to
I
take
just
pictures of
want
her?
my children. I want to stay here with my children. I don't want to leave my children. And she was beaten and she was bruised and she was hurt. She still wanted to stay with her kids. She wanted to be with her kids. And Edward said, well, will you do this for us? Will you just go down to West LA Station and let us photograph your injuries? It'll only take a few minutes. It seems as if she was more concerned about her kids than she was doing anything to the defendant. She didn't care about documenting her own injuries at that time. She just wanted to be with her kids. But Edwards took her to West LA Station and he took some Polaroid photographs of her. You remember those photographs? Back in February, I think it was. I think I marked those people's 4 and 5. I want you to go back for a moment with me 8 months ago. Take a look at these injuries. And keep in mind that these are Polaroids and they're 8 years old. But look at these injuries. And just look at what you can see, which isn't much at this point. See the small cut to the right side, where we are on the right side of her upper lip. Look at the swelling on her left cheek. Look at the scar, the scratch, the bruise up on the right side of her forehead. You see that?
She does a bump, yeah.
You've seen other pictures of her. You saw a picture of her when she was alive and smiling. Remember that picture? I'll have to find it for you tomorrow. But you look at that picture, the one you're looking at now. You look at the one of her smiling. You look at those two pictures, I think, and it helps you discern just how badly bruised she was.
Poor Nicole.
Well, at some point, he took her back home to be with her kids. The defendant, they didn't catch him that night. And the next day, Nicole spoke to Ron Shipp. And the next day as well, the defendant spoke to Detective Farrell. Remember Detective Farrell, the detective investigating this case? He called Detective Farrell on the phone and apologized for the incident and expressed to Detective Farrell his dismay at the extent of her injuries. Do you remember that? He called Farrell and told him he didn't realize she'd been injured that much. He didn't realize the full extent of her injuries at the time. I don't know, you tell me. That's a Polaroid. This is People's 29. You
what?
You what?
She doesn't quite look like that in any other photograph that you've seen in this case, does she?
They're handing it to the defense? That's weird.
Oh, so they can see it.
Is that like a standard thing?
Yeah, they have to see what they're showing the jury.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
He had injured her, he had harmed her, and he had beaten her, and he did not fully realize the extent of his own anger, the extent of his own rage at that point. He had hurt her in ways that he himself didn't fully comprehend at the time. And later on, he wrote her some letters.
Let me starty.
He's trying to get back on her good side. Now, you may see these as letters of apology. We say these are letters of manipulation. What is he really attempting to accomplish here? You have the original letters in the jury room.
He was a really bad speller.
In the beginning, he expresses to her how sorry he is. Actually, I don't know. Does he say he's sorry? And does he say it was wrong? But he says he was wrong for hurting her and that there's no excuse for what he did. And then he goes on to write something I think is very, very important here. He writes that he's thinking and trying to realize how he got so crazy. He had such emotional feelings towards her that were as high as any he'd ever felt. And it must be because of those feelings that he reacted so emotionally. With all of that emotion running in him, he says he didn't react too well. It's just as I said a moment before, he doesn't fully realize, or he didn't in 1989, just how crazy he could get, how emotional he could get, how passionate he could get. Now, what set this whole thing off? What happened in 1989 that caused him to get to the point that he beat this woman up? Well, Ron Shipp testified about his conversation with Nicole. Now, if you reflect back for a moment on the defendant's statement to Edwards that he had 2 women, right? What did Shipp tell you about his conversation with Nicole? She found out about the other 2 women. She didn't want to have sex with them. She didn't want to be with them. That's what led to this whole thing in 1989. It's passion. It's emotion. And when that passion and that emotion...
Like what you're lacking?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, oh my God, I've got to push pause just to cleanse my own palate after... Oh, that's emotion.
It's passion. It's emotion. Dude, seriously, what is the matter with you? A woman and a man got viciously, violently murdered, and you're just sitting there talking about, it sounds like you're talking about your shopping list. And you're like, oh, I'm going to go to Trader Joe's, and I'm going to go to Target and get some socks. I mean, seriously, what? I cannot believe this.
So there's no real reason for me to stop this here. I just had to push the pause button on this incessant droning that's been going on for an hour.
It's too much, man. It's too much.
All right. Let's we do have one chat here.
Although to be fair, a lot of murders are boring. Murder trials.
I wish I was drunk.
Super chat.
How are we taking a short break from drink? Well, we're taking a short break from being bored out of our gourd here by
I want to drink, and it's 7:20 in the
Prosecution.
morning. It's 7:22 in the morning, and I would love just a mega pint of wine right now. This man is just killing me.
Hey, phrasing.
Yeah.
I'm
not sorry.
But we do have we currently have 184 people here. Hey, we've got about 120 people extra since we started. That's pretty cool. We're just going through the OJ Simpson closing here. We're unfortunately not going to get finished with Darden this week. We'll finish with him next week and get on to Johnny Cochran, just slightly more animated than this. And
I'm looking forward to that. I'm
sure
just trying to get to defense closing argument. I'm looking forward to that.
And make sure y'all hit the like and subscribe button, because that's why we're here. We're here for fun, and you should be liking this, because we're somehow we're trying desperately to make Christopher Darden's closing argument regarding a horrific double murder sound semi-interesting to you. We do have our like and subscribe poll, so hit like, hit subscribe, and then vote. Is OJ a murderer? 20% of you say he should be as free as Cato's rent. 23% of you say uncertain as a slow speed chase. And 57% of you say murder fits him like a glove.
This is a good poll today, Jeff. It was like one of your best ones ever.
Gee, thanks. All right.
You're normally not my, your polls are, today's really good. It's really good.
Yes, think of another way to insult me without insulting me. Your polls are usually boring and stupid.
But this one's really good. Keep on this trajectory, and yeah, good poll.
And Aaron Hack has just gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships. So if you
Thanks,
are
Aaron.
one of those 5 that got the super secret gifted memberships from Aaron Hack, give Aaron Hack a super special thanks. All right, we don't want to prolong this any more than we have to. So we've got about 17 more minutes or so here of this, and then we'll switch into the final segment of his closing, the final couple of hours of his closing. Yes. After this, there's still 2 hours and 17 more minutes of him.
Oh God. Wow. He really drags it out, doesn't he? And you can't speed it up either. It's like, I wish we could do this on like 1.25 speed at least, but no, can't do it.
Yeah, we can't on court TV where this is. They have it. You can find it on YouTube, but it's really horrifically bad. So let's go.
All right.
Gets out of control, and he was out of control in 1989. And when that fuse starts burning, ladies and gentlemen, and it starts getting shorter and shorter, it sets him off. He was set off that day in 1989. But you look at this letter, and you have this letter in the jury room, and you'll see that he can't always control the passion and anger and emotion himself. Something about this woman, she does something to this man that causes him to lose control.
That's victim
And
blaming.
he lost control.
I was gonna say, what the
He lost
shit?
control of her because in 1992 she
shit was
moved out of his
that?
house.
That was a really bad way of putting
In
that.
January of 1992, as I recall. And the next month, I think it's February. I
Darden,
don't
you
know.
should be telling the jury he
Maybe I
did
should
something
pull out
to
the timeline
her.
for it, John.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
some women you
Lord.
just want to
It was in
decapitate them almost,
1992
right?
In
That's the thing.
February. If I'm not
Seriously.
mistaken, she filed for divorce.
I'm sure that didn't go over well with the women on the jury.
Well, you know, when a woman moves out of your house and files for divorce, I have learned it means she doesn't want you anymore.
Don't bring your personal life
It
into
means that
this.
there's something wrong in the relationship.
Darden.
And it means, I think, that perhaps if you are the other party to that marriage, that perhaps you should be seeking companionship elsewhere. Now, that's not what they did in this case.
Projecting much?
Yeah, he and Marsha totally boned.
She
I'm
left.
just saying it right now.
She filed for divorce,
Ooh, timeline.
and he couldn't take it.
They just didn't know
You
how to
heard
talk about
from-
domestic violence back then. God.
Catherine Bowe and her husband, Mr. Colby. Remember Mr. Colby? They lived at the corner on Gretna Green. In 1992, and I believe it was April 28th, around 11 p.m. at night.
Oh, good God.
It's here on the chart.
Wow. Foghorn time.
Woo! Sebastian.
Legal Vices membership drop. 50 Legal Vices memberships from Sebastian Muller. That's insane. So the list is scrolling. Everybody that's getting one of these gifted memberships from Sebastian Muller, give Sebastian a huge thanks for this amazing gift he's giving you and the support that he's giving the channel with
Thank you
50
so
Legal
much.
Vices memberships.
That's awesome.
That's like beyond awesome. That's
a really incredible gift.
That's like awesome. That's like if awesome was awesome. Awesome squared.
Absolutely. Does this call for
And-
dog cam?
Of course.
Wonderful.
And a very large drink. Yay.
Beautiful.
I get to drink through Darden's closing.
Oh, good,
Dude.
good, excellent.
Oh.
But you have to say it like Christopher Darden. You have to be like, yeah, Sebastian Muller, thanks
Yeah.
for gifting 50 Legal Vices memberships. That was really, really amazing of you.
Yeah.
It was super
thanks.
low energy.
Yeah, thanks,
You're
Sebastian.
just so awesome.
All right, let's push play. Thanks, Sebastian, for this.
It was very cool. It was so nice.
Cheers.
Way to
Give
go.
me a quick second here to set up doggo cam. That was an unplanned for event. I hope we can fit him here on this particular screen. I think it's going to make us smaller.
Particular.
That's all it does.
I like that you said particular.
Wow. Oddly, we have Yoda and no strawberry tonight. That's unusual. Yes, we just have there we go. And thank you, seriously, thank you, Sebastian. Cheers to you for being such a huge supporter of the show. Thanks. And congratulations to every one of you. Like, literally 25% of the people here got a gifted membership. Dang.
Well, I don't know how many people are watching right now. It's possible that some of those might roll.
189.
Okay. So I was like, will they roll over to another stream? I know, like, OJ is criminally... Our stream that we do this Thursday morning, it's like, it's criminally underwatched. People don't really watch this as much, but we have our loyal viewers, and I love coming on every week. I've been doing this with you since February, and I never get tired of it, and I wake up at 4 a.m. just to come on here, which is crazy of me, but I love it, and I love spending time here learning about one of the most horrific cases. It's just, like, absolutely dreadful.
And I'm not just going to just guzzle this down in one shot, because that would kill me at this point in my life. But seriously, thank you, Sebastian Muller, for that incredible gift. Look, it's almost as if Strawberry knew Doggo Cam was on. And we got Ben there, done that, member for 13 months. Jeff, next poll needs to be, guess what pants Jeff is wearing. We won't ask Chandler about her pants, since that would be inappropriate.
Why?
Everybody knows what pants I'm wearing. We talked about it at length a couple of days ago. So if you missed it,
I liked those pants. They were way more feminine than anything I own. I have like flannel pants on right now. They're really comfy. You want to see? These are my pants. Very sexy.
Well, they just need to be sky blue and fuzzy and covered with purple and pink hearts. They need to be cool.
They're so cute. They look really comfortable.
Oh, they are, and they were $2. So that's a great thing.
Wow.
It's what everybody in Korea wears in the winter. It's just a thing.
It's just a Korean thing, totally.
Pretty much. All right, everybody. Thank you again for all of that. It's insane. Sebastian, thank you so much. But all you've done is prolong our pain this evening. Thank you so much. Let's go.
They looked out the window and they saw a figure.
And what did I see? Popcorn popping on the apricot
tree. In the darkness, they saw a man, and the man was out on the sidewalk, and he was looking around, and he was pacing a little bit up and down the sidewalk. He was pacing, walking up and down on the sidewalk. I don't know what it means when people pace. I do it a lot, but
you've been doing it incessantly during your closing.
Pacing out there on the sidewalk, but they thought this was unusual at 11 o'clock at night. Was it a Sunday night? I think it was a Sunday night. And they watched this person. This man, by the way, this man was about 6 feet, 6'2", 200 pounds, African American.
Yeah, where's the Houston PJs I got you?
In the night, pacing up and down the sidewalk.
Oh.
And then they saw that man.
I have them, but they're not really winter friendly. They're
up the driveway,
cold. Short,
peer through the window.
You live in
Nicole
LA.
Brown's house.
It's chilly here. It's
like it got down to 70
degrees. It's 50 something, I think. 54, yeah, freezing.
He didn't handle that divorce, the filing of that divorce too well, now did he? Now they may say, oh well, he looked through a window. Big deal. This is more than just looking through a window. This is stalking.
Isn't that kind of what looking through a window is?
Come up to your window at 11 o'clock at night, and they peek through it, and they look through it, and they watch you. There's something wrong here. There is something wrong here. This is obsessive conduct, ladies and gentlemen. This is obsessive conduct. This is stalking. And the Colby saw this man. They saw him do that. They saw him walk back out on the sidewalk, and they became so concerned about him that they telephoned the police. They called the police.
How many of you were days old when you learned that Sting's original version of Every Breath You Take is about a stalker?
But after a few moments, they could. Who was that?
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. I knew that.
Who was the defendant?
Most people don't.
A lot of people think it's a love song, which is really creepy.
Well, the remake, they changed it to a love song, but yeah. It's all about a dude that's like some chick that's watching a dude.
It's disturbing. Every move you make,
private. You're
It's already
watching you.
April.
Watching
April
your
of 1992.
every
Let me tell you
move. Private eyes. Oh, I got to check and see if
April of
the
1992. This
Daryl
woman
Hall's
knew
restraining
she was
order
gonna die.
against Oates is still in effect. All right,
She
we're
told Edwards that he
drifting.
was
Our
gonna kill
attention
her.
is drifting.
It happens.
She told him that back in 1989.
1989.
Yes, it is, Aaron
And
Hack.
apparently she believed that. You heard testimony
Every Breath You Take by Sting is about a
from a DA
stalker.
investigator in this case. My investigator from my office, Mike Stevens. And Mr. Stevens testified that in December of 1994, and with the permission of a judge, he said that he went to a
Okay, just for those that are calling this in question. Hey, Corey Hart. That was the first concert that I took a date to. Yeah, I wear my
He's got interviews
sunglasses at
about it.
night. Or
Oh my god,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
such a dumb song. So I can what?
every
So you can
every
what?
breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. Every single day, every word you say, every game you play, every night you stay, I'll be watching you. Oh, can't you see you belong to me? How my poor heart aches with every step you take. Every move you make, every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you stake, I'll be watching you. Since you've been gone, I've been lost without a trace. I dream at night, I can only see your face. I look around, but it's only you I can't replace. I feel so cold and I long for your embrace. I keep crying, baby, baby, please. Oh, can't you see you belong to me? How my poor heart aches with every breath you take, etc., etc.
Totally deranged.
It's a story totally about a female stalker. So yeah.
But with the music underneath, it's like if you don't pay attention to the lyrics and isolate them, there are so many love songs, and it sounds like somebody who's like, oh, just like really devoted, to their unrequited love. But when you really think about it, it has a threatening, menacing undertone.
Yeah.
I mean, every smile you fake, like that's a little
it's just clear right there. Can't you see you belong to me?
Yeah, really. I mean, people don't belong to people. That's not healthy.
Yeah.
It's not kosher.
Right. That was our little diversion, our diversion of a diversion. Mm-hmm. Island says, Jeff, you keep singing the song in my mind and it's unsettling. Get out of my head. Okay.
I like the song, but just you got to know what it's about, really. Like really about.
It would be canceled immediately. That's why whoever did this stupid remake a while ago, it's now been turned into a love song.
No,
just kind of
not
gross,
a fan.
a bank, and he drilled a hole in a safe deposit box. You recall that testimony? And it was in that safe deposit box that he found a letter that we showed you a moment ago. Remember that? The letter where the defendant says he doesn't know how he got so crazy. They found that letter, and they found two other letters from the defendant, from OJ Simpson, to Nicole, attempting to get back with her, attempting to convince her to take him back, attempting to convince her that things will be better the next time. They found those letters in that safe deposit box, and they found something else. They found a will.
A wheel? What's a wheel doing in a safe deposit box?
He said will.
He did. I was joking.
They found a will. This woman's will. It had been executed during 1990, which means she must have been about 30 years old.
You don't have to sell your body to the night, Roxanne.
You know, many people at the age of 30 who execute wills. But you find her will, his letters, and something else.
Make a drinking game out of that. Put on the red light, and Roxanne, just take a sip every time. You'll be drunk in an instant. Just like if you listen to the Ramones, every time they say "gimme" or "wanna," take a shot.
There were some photographs from back in 1989. Because after he beat her in 1989, she called her sister Denise, and Denise came over and she showed Denise the injuries that this man inflicted on her. And she asked Denise to take pictures of those injuries. And she put those pictures in that safe deposit box along with her will, along with her letters. Okay. She put those things there for a reason. I mean, they're just letters.
I can do that too.
Pictures, if you're going to have a safe deposit box, you think that the things that you put in that box are the things that you think are important. Now, I don't know how you want to interpret that conduct. You can interpret it any way you want, but let me suggest to you that you should interpret it this way. She is leaving you a roadmap to let you know who it is who will eventually kill her. She knew in 1989. She knew it. And she wants you to know it.
That seems a little bit of a stretch.
She didn't know when. But whenever that eventuality came, she wanted you to know who did it. Think about that.
It does seem like
Just
a stretch
think about
because they're going to be like, well, why didn't she leave then?
Will,
most people, I mean, not most, a huge amount of people keep their wills in safe deposit boxes.
Okay.
Because it's safe.
You tell me.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You stop being a dick?
Denise took of her sister. Wait.
Poor Nicole.
One of the photographs that Denise took of her sister in 1989. People's 11.
Thank you.
It's very sad.
And this photograph was taken, as I recall, on the 3rd or the 4th, I believe, of January, 3 or 4 days after the beating. And you can still see the injuries. This wasn't some little bruise that healed overnight or that went away the next morning. She left these for you. This is a roadmap. This is a sign. She wanted you to know who killed her.
A sign.
When the time came. But it's 1992. And in 1992, he has already beaten up her Mercedes in her car.
Stop saying Mercedes.
He's already beaten her up. Show the next.
Yeah, really. It further alienates the fact that, you know, she was a white woman and she was wealthy. You know, this is a mostly black jury. They're not, you know, maybe a lot of them are well off, but still.
Look at the picture up on the
It's
album.
not likely.
Look at People's 29. That fuse is getting shorter, folks. It's burning. And at some point, he is going to explode. But in April of 92, as he peeks through the window and stalks her, he is jealous. He is jealous. He is consumed with jealousy. He has become obsessive. And we know he's consumed with jealousy because we know that back in 1989, after he did this to her, he spoke to Ron Shipp. Remember that? You remember Ron Shipp. You remember what they did to Ron Shipp on the witness stand? Ron Shipp testified that back in 89, he was a member of the LAPD and a friend to Nicole and to the defendant. And that after he beat her in 1989, she called him. She asked him to come and see her, and he did. You recall his testimony when he walked through the door, he saw Nicole and he saw these injuries and these bruises, and he was shocked. And he wanted to know who did this to her. And she told him. He did it.
Alan is Scottish, by the way, Joe.
And
you know that.
To Ron Shipp about the defendant's conduct and their relationship. And as you recall, Ron Shipp at the time was teaching at the police academy.
I had to look it up.
Look what up?
A course on spousal abuse. And he showed Nicole a document. And this document listed some of the characteristics that are indicative of a man who beats women and are indicative of a woman who allows a man to beat her.
Allows?
And he showed it to Nicole and he spoke with her. And she asked him to do her a favor. and that is to speak to OJ Simpson, her husband at the time, the defendant, to speak with him about his conduct, to speak with him about what he did to her. And Ron Shipp did that, and he showed this document to OJ Simpson, the defendant. The document, I believe, was called a profile, a batterer's profile. It listed all these characteristics consistent with a person who beats his wife, and he showed them to OJ Simpson, and they had a discussion. And at first,
hey, that sounds like me.
Minimized what he had done to Nicole, and he tried to suggest that, hey, he wasn't a batterer. And Ron said, man, look at your wife. Look at the injuries. Of course you're a batterer. The defendant tried to minimize his conduct. And he showed those characteristics, that profile, to OJ Simpson. And OJ Simpson pointed one out. I mean, Shipp said, hey, do any of these fit you in your mind? Do any of these fit you? There's one category entitled pathologically jealous. Remember? And OJ Simpson said, well, maybe, maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm a little bit jealous. A little bit pathologically jealous. That's one of those things where you can't just be a little bit of, either you are or you aren't. You know what I mean? You can't be somewhat jealous or partially jealous. You're either jealous or you're not jealous. And this defendant, he was jealous and he was out of control, and he was consumed with passion for Nicole, and he was obsessive because in April of 1992 he is peeping through windows. He has already beaten her. He has beaten up her car, and he done some other things.
What kind of car was it again? I forgot.
Already that the testimony from Nicole Brown said he humiliated
Mercedes.
the public by grabbing her crotch in front of a bar full of strangers. And what else had he done? What else had he done?
His behavior sounds abhorrent.
He'd thrown Nicole and Denise out of his house one night. Remember that night? That night that Denise said to him, OJ, you take Nicole for granted. And he blew up. Remember, he blew up and he said, hey, I do everything for her. And he became enraged back then, and he picked Nicole up and he threw her against the wall, and he threw her out the house, and he threw Denise out the house, and he threw all the clothes downstairs and out the house too. Remember that testimony? This is the private side of him. This is the other side. This is the side of this man that you don't see in the commercial. He is out of control. He cannot handle it. And the fuse is burning.
I'm burning, I'm burning, I'm burning for you.
I love that song.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our... Mr. Wooden, would you take that down for me, please?
We're going to take our little break here. We got about 20 more minutes, so we're going to shift into the next day and get a little bit of a lead on it, if you don't mind. Go away. And while we're doing that, Chandler, do a little griftiness.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Chandler Remington. For those of you who don't know me, I am a paralegal from Los Angeles, California, and I have my own channel. You can follow me at Remy, REMY_legal. And I'm really excited because I have some really fun stuff coming up. I'm going to be doing some streams on my channel very, very soon, and you'll see a lot more of me in the new year. So I hope everybody's had a really beautiful holiday season, and go follow me and get my subscriber count up. I would love for you to join my audience.
Remy_legal. That's where you want to go. Subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
You won't regret it. And Yoda has just left the building. You can lay down now, Strawberry. Get over there. Let's see if she does. Probably she's gonna pee on the blanket.
Dance for the people, doggies. Dance for them.
All right, so let's check in on our like and subscribe poll here just to kind of buffer us in before we get into more Darden. 187 people here, 153 likes, and somehow 190 votes. Come on, people. 40 of you have cheated. Cheaters, degenerate cheaters that can't be trusted. 43 of you have voted without hitting the like button. Shame on you. 18% of you have said that, is OJ a murderer is the question. 18% of you said he should be as free as Cato's rent. 24% of you have said uncertain as a slow speed chase. And 58% of you have said murder fits him like a glove. All right. There we go. I think we're good. We've got everywhere all caught up. Make sure we're all caught up. Yep, we are all caught up with everything. So let's mosey on over here to the next day. Present screen. Well, not the next day, the afternoon. Sorry. Embiggen. Unmute. Bring the volume down to 51%-ish. There we go. And here we go. We got about 20 more minutes. And we're going to pull the ripcord and call it a day. And then I promise next week we will finish Chris Darden's terrible closing. Clothing. All right.
Don't insult the way he dresses. It's not that. That's not the problem.
Puro,
He is no Johnny Cochran.
Mr. Cochran,
No.
Mr. Major,
Mr. Cochran. I don't like the way he says that.
represented
Mr.
by
Cochran.
and Ms. Clark. Jury is not present. The record should reflect that this morning I had a chambers conference with counsel to discuss a questionnaire that will go to the jurors this afternoon, inquiring of them if they are desirous of extending the hours of deliberation into a later session during the evening hours.
Won't be needed. They
Whether or
only
not
need
they
4 hours.
are desirous or willing to deliberate on Saturdays.
Won't be needed. It's only
Understand that
4
any
hours.
deliberations must be conducted here at the courthouse and in the jury
Speaking for the
deliberation.
future.
We also discussed, counsel had no objection to the questionnaire proposed by the court. Also, the record should reflect that the court has directed counsel to be available on a 1 hour's call for the purposes of responding to questions by the jury.
There won't
and
be
also
any.
requests for readback. And the court has indicated also that
Jury
a
deliberation
longer
lasted 4 hours.
time period to be available
Amazing.
for purposes of rendering a verdict will probably be in place, but we'll discuss that when the time comes.
Unnecessary, Your Honor.
All
They
right,
made up their
anything
minds
we
a
need to
while
discuss
back.
before, put on the record before we conclude with Mr. Darden's argument? Sure. All right, Deputy Trier. Yes, Mr. Scheck, good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to register for the record certain objections. One in particular to Ms. Clark's argument and get some determination from the court on this issue. At one point in her argument, she began making references to the defendants not performing tests on evidence and started making comments
Burden
about
shifting.
experts for the defense who never appeared in court or testified and what
Oh,
they did or
she
didn't
changed
do.
her dress in the
In
afternoon.
particular, the comment
Wow.
that concerned me the most was in reference to EDTA testing. It's one thing to say that Dr. Reeders didn't perform a test.
That's weird that she would change her outfit over lunch.
Maybe somebody spilled coffee on her or something. I don't know.
Could have been. That's weird. All right. Anyway.
Using
So
the
she spilled coffee on
MSMS
herself.
machine, because that certainly came out and was a
Or maybe you got some
impeachment in the
Darden
testimony.
stains on it.
But what concerned me was a reference, well, the defense had other experts and
Bad.
they didn't come in and give you test results or anything to that effect. And that seems to me improper because, first of all, it's commenting on a privileged area. I think that's 913. And secondly, I think we've already had some litigation on this issue where the court actually made a finding that the conduct of the prosecution in terms of trying to find out what, if anything, defense experts were doing in this area was, in the court's words, reprehensible. So it seems to me that comment on what other experts could have done with respect to their testing or did do or anything like that would be improper, although I have no objection to her making comments about Dr. Reeders. I thought that, and I'd like some kind of guidance from the court on that issue.
Ms. Clark?
I don't know what to say, Judge. I pointed out to the jury what's in the record. I pointed out the truth. And I think I was very specific about the people they called and they didn't call. What I pointed out, to the best of my recollection, is that they called Dr. Reeders to testify about someone else's tests. He performed none. He could have. I talked about Dr. Gerdes and I talked about Dr. Lee and I talked about Dr. Blake. This is all in the record. I don't recall, I did not refer to other experts that were unnamed or that did not come into the record. I talked about the ones that were in the record. And that's why they didn't perform any tests. So I don't know what the complaint is.
All right, Mr. Shuck, do you want to, are there any case citations? Because primarily during the course of argument, prosecution counsel are entitled to comment upon the state of the evidence and the failure to call logical and material witnesses. And that's People versus Miller, 50 Cal 3rd at 954. The court's comments at 996.
Ooh, Ito's got the exact line of that site locked and loaded.
Ms. Clark doesn't believe she said that, or certainly isn't going to make that argument on a rebuttal, then I guess we don't have a quarrel. Okay. It seems to me, though, that just to make my point very, very clear, it's one thing to comment on Dr. Reeders and what tests he did or did not perform under the circumstances. I distinctly heard her say the defense has other experts that could have done that test. And that, I think, is beyond the Miller case and beyond proper comment on the record. And it appears that Ms. Clark agrees. So perhaps
something based in the record, correct?
Right. So it appears as though there's no disagreement here. But I'm very concerned because of.
Let's do this. Let's have our computer maven, Mr. Blazier, see if he can find the appropriate comment. And at the next recess, we'll take it up if you feel it's something that's appropriate.
Oh. Your Honor, I'll tell you what.
No, we just settled it.
Well, no, because in case, I don't know, we can't all remember what we say over the period of hours, but I will say this. Any reference to other experts would have been they could have brought someone in, not they had someone available. But assuming, what if that's the case? Don't do it? Wait. Okay.
Discussion's over.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Deputy Trier, let's have the jurors, please. And Mr. Darden, are you prepared to continue on with your argument, sir?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. Thank you.
Right.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, again,
morning,
okay.
ladies and gentlemen.
I thought we had an afternoon break. I guess we had a day break. All right, that explains the wardrobe change.
Yeah.
Just like it wasn't a Darden stain; it was a whole new day.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's continue. Awkward. All right, let's go.
I hope everybody.
Just briefly show that to counsel.
That's a severe tie he's
I
wearing.
hope everybody had a good sleep last night. It was a long day yesterday.
So makes an impression.
And I thank you. Let me thank you in advance for hearing me again this morning. I don't expect to take up the entire morning. In fact, with any luck, I won't take up more than half of it. But we'll have to see. Well, you recall where we left off yesterday. I was telling you about this defendant's relationship, this man's relationship with Nicole Brown. And I told you that it was a simmering relationship. You know, it was a slow burn. It was a slow burn. And I described for you and discussed with you some of the testimony that you heard in this case, testimony you heard from witnesses about their relationship. And we talked about the 1985 incident involving the baseball bat and the Mercedes-Benz. We talked about the 1989 incident and the fact that the police have been there 8 times before. Both the defendant here and Nicole Brown both admitted that. So I guess it's true, right? We talked about the incident at the Red Onion when the defendant grabbed Nicole by the crotch and in front of a bar full of strangers and humiliated her. We talked about that.
I mean, this is important evidence.
His admission to Shipp.
He's not delivering
about his jealousy after the 1989 incident. We never talked about the testimony we heard from Denise Brown. You remember the testimony from Denise Brown when she talked about
Stop saying that.
The really, really nasty things he would say to
Do you remember, Darden?
As you may recall, Denise Brown, Nicole's sister, testified that during the time that she was pregnant, the defendant would call her names. Do you recall that testimony? He'd call her a fat pig. And he would call her a fat pig in front of other people.
But his lack of confidence is really not selling this.
No.
He doesn't seem to care.
I don't know what you should extract from that.
I'm not sure what you should extract from that. Dude, you should be telling them what to extract from that.
Oh my
God dang it, I hate this idiot. The
His lack of
Yakuza
confidence is ruining this. Oh, beautiful.
It is. The Japanese Yakuza 1 had some fun at work today with go-kart and some paintball, but with rubber balls. Feels a bit, but it was fun. We're not having fun. We're just listening to this guy deliver a horrifically bad closing argument.
Well, thank you for
I'm
the
telling
super
you
chat.
this. He's calling his pregnant wife a fat pig. I don't know what you're supposed to make about that, but, you know.
You go, this is a man who was pathologically, you know, furiously angry at this woman, and even in pregnancy would resort to insulting her. Now, what kind of a man is that? Come on.
Alan, this is America, not Scotland. Just kidding.
I don't know. I'm getting really riled up. I'm like practicing. What would my closing arguments have been? My God. This is
You
so
should do
disturbing.
that. Do a project. You should do that. Seriously.
I will. I'll do a
Have you
video.
ever heard of such a thing? I don't know. I would suggest, however, that is some indication of how he really felt about her.
So she was a fat pig.
You know, sometimes you get in a relationship, people get in a relationship, you know.
All right, look at that. See, it's like his sister, her sister testified that he called his wife a fat pig. Well, you know, I don't know what you're supposed to make of that, but you know, maybe it showed how she really feel, how he really
She
feel.
was pregnant with his child. This is the mother of his children. He grades her. He calls her names. He insults her in the most vulnerable time of her life instead of nurturing her and being there for her. Was he a good husband? No, absolutely not. He was abusive. He was cruel. I mean, come on, dude. It's so easy. It is so easy.
I mean, yeah, you can do it the way he did it, or like, I mean, you can just go look. This is how bad he is. This is how little he thought of her, that he calls her a fat pig while she's pregnant. That's how little respect he had for her. That's how little thought he had for her, and that he thought of her as an animal. That's all you got to do.
It's a disgusting thing to say, and he needs to drive the point home, and he's doing a terrible job. It's like he doesn't care about these people who died. I mean, this is the people versus OJ. Is this what the best of what the people have, really, in the city of Los Angeles? My God, I'm so just appalled. I had no idea it was this bad.
And you have one half of the relationship who's dominant, and you have another half who's somewhat passive, and the dominant half dominates the other half. And
really, that's what dominant means, right?
What effect do you suppose this would have on Nicole?
Don't ask questions of the jury. Tell them the answers. God damn it!
By her husband while she's pregnant.
She was degraded for years and years by this man, beaten down into submission. She was afraid to leave.
What effect would that have on her self-esteem? Because you're probably wondering, well, hey, if he did all of these things to her, if he said all of these things to her, why did she stay?
Irrelevant. Don't ask them that
question. There's this old song, and the words used to go I think it was the Dramatics. I can't really recall. But there was a couple of lines in the song where they said, the strong give up and move on, and the weak give up and stay.
So he's calling her weak.
If you badger a person long enough, if you beat them down long enough, if you wear them down long enough, pretty soon you strip them of their dignity, their self-esteem, and they are weak, and they are submissive, and they can't go. They can't stay. And you know how that is. Everybody knows how that is. We've all been in bad relationships before. You have friends. You see them in these bad relationships. Why? Why do they stay?
Why?
Why do they stay?
Doesn't matter. Don't bring it up. Don't bring up the fact she was weak and dumb, you know. She didn't have,
they don't know that they have a choice. They forgot that they had a choice. In their minds, they have no choice.
We have a Joe choice.
Really how it works.
Sorry. Yeah,
no, it just pisses me off the way that he's delivering this. I mean, I know that it said it was the 90s.
And we talked about justice, and we talked about what the real issue in this case was about. And I pointed the defendant out to you, and I told you he killed her. And you've heard the evidence in this case.
Say he was a violent man. She was afraid of leaving him. If she left him, she would have been killed.
Goldman. OJ Simpson's a murderer. That's what the evidence indicates.
Which
That
evidence?
is what the evidence indicates. That is what the evidence shows. It shows that he's not just a murderer, but he's a double murderer.
You showed us he broke some windows and beat her up once 6 years ago before the
I'd rather be
incident.
somewhere else.
Tell
I'm
us
sure
about
you'd
the
rather be
murder.
somewhere else. Who wants to really have to confront and deal with these issues? But we have to, because we have a duty. Marcia and I have a duty, and you have a duty as well. Your duty is to look at all the evidence, to be fair, be conscientious, be objective. And your duty is to look at all the evidence, the totality of circumstances, everything. We don't want you to just look at one piece. Don't just look at the prosecution's case. Look at the entire case. Look at everything. Because when you do,
when you do what?
When you do.
What? What? When you do what?
What can you say?
You can finish the fucking sentence, Darden.
We've proven it. And we've proven it beyond a
Jesus
reasonable doubt.
fucking Christ. I hate that he makes me break commandments. Making me take the name of the Lord, taking the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
Nicole knew that she was going to die, and we know that she knew that because she told the police that in 1989.
It's all on him.
And we know that she knew that because of what she saved for us, the roadmap she left for you in that safety deposit box.
Use her words.
The letters.
He's going to kill me. I mean, that's
the photographs. The will. You recall that testimony. And as we went through the progression here, through the history of his abuse of Nicole, and by the way, not every incident here on this chart is an incident necessarily of abuse. But we wanted to lay out the history of their relationship as well. And so that's why you see things like divorce and et cetera. So we're not trying to mislead you. But we thought it was important that you know how the relationship developed over the years. And this is an unusual relationship. You have to agree. There's something wrong here. Henry Lee said there was something wrong. There's something very wrong here. This is a slow burning, simmering relationship. And it's just like I told you yesterday, the fuse is burning. The fuse is burning, folks, and it's getting shorter and it's getting shorter. And it's just getting shorter.
Such a shame. How
But
this
this
all
morning,
shaked out.
You know, I want to take things a step further, if I may, if you allow me to. Let's just cut right to the chase. Imagine a defendant in his Bronco.
Imagine,
he's full of anger,
if you will.
and he is full of rage, and it's nighttime. And he's driving that Bronco, and he is full of jealousy. And the fuse continues to burn.
Yes, we know about the fuse. We've heard about the fuse.
And the focus of his anger is Nicole. For some reason, in his mind, she has done something that he can't ignore, something that has set him off. He's jealous, he's raging, he's out of control, and he's in that Bronco, and he is driving as fast as he can toward Nicole's house. And it's about 10 o'clock. He is out of control, folks. He is completely out of control. And when he gets to Nicole's place,
yes,
he quickly parks the Bronco and he gets out.
Hey, Solomon, good morning, brother.
He's in his Bronco. Hey. He's at Nicole's house. It's nighttime, but we're not even talking about June 12th. We're not talking about June 12, 1994. We're talking about October 25, 1993. All along, I've asked you to be open-minded about this man and who he is. And we have suggested to you, and I think we've proven to you, that he is not the person that you see on those TV commercials and at halftime in those football games. That is his public persona. We all have one. We all have one. We behave a certain way when we're in public, and we behave another way when we're at home. You know what they say, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. And the fact that we may see you and you may see us doesn't really mean that you know us. Or that you know me, or you know Miss Clark or Mr. Conklin. You see us here in public. But what are we? What are we really? What are we really inside? What are we really at home? Well, we have a very, very, very nice example. Well, Nice is a bad choice of words. We have a very, very poor example of who this man is, of who he is at home, of who he is in
This
his
man
private
does not
life.
know how
It's the
language
private side,
works.
the other side of him. And I want
He's
you to
not
listen to a
gifted
tape.
with the gift of gab.
A tape of an emergency call. And you recall that I played that tape for you a long time ago, months ago, and you probably forgot about it. Up until yesterday, I hope. But I'm going to ask you to listen to that tape in just a moment. Now, you know, some people say, well, how could OJ Simpson actually kill this woman and Ron Goldman when her kids are in the house? You know what I mean? They say, well,
no, I don't know. I have no clue what you mean.
Well, he would.
What?
Keep this in mind, if you will, if you think it's important. In 1989, when he beat her, you'll recall that when the police came and wanted to take her to Parker Center to have photographs of her injuries taken, you'll remember that she said, I don't want to go. I just want my kids. Just take me back home. Take me back home to my kids. My kids are at home. I want to be with my kids. The night he beat her, his kids were in the house. And when you listen to this tape from October 25, 1993, after the first couple of minutes, you'll hear the defendant in the background yelling and screaming and raging. You'll hear that rage. And you'll hear Nicole on the telephone say, the kids are upstairs. The fact that the kids are in the house means nothing to this man, Mr. Fairlow, Mr. Wooden.
Oh, all right. This is a good place to wrap this up. We got 2 hours that we'll get through next week, and then I swear to God we'll be done with Darden.
This guy is just, I mean, I want him to do a better job. I want to celebrate parts of his closing, but they're not very good.
Yeah, we've got one more week of Darden.
Okay, I can make it.
But the one thing I want to read one article before we leave.
Oh, okay.
And because we were talking about Gil Garcetti earlier, why Darden, why Marcia? Gil Garcetti was the district attorney. I thought he left right after the Menendez trial, but he was there until 2000.
Nepo baby.
Yeah, so he was there until 2000. The Los Angeles County District Attorney, Gil Garcetti, actually quite a good lawyer, a very, very good lawyer. Don't know why he didn't handle such a high-profile case himself. But there you go. He didn't. But this was an interesting article that I found.
Don't you know, Jeff? I mean, the politics of it all. I mean, think about it. It was right after Rodney King. Him prosecuting a black man, that would not have been great for him.
Still.
No, I think it was an image thing. I think it was kind of slippery, the whole thing.
This is an article from 2016 in the New York Post. Let's bring this up. Yes, Yoda, I'm bringing this up. Former DA Gil Garcetti, I never wanted Marcia Clark on the OJ trial.
Burn.
OJ Simpson, 76, appears frail as he's spotted walking in Las Vegas.
He doesn't look that frail. I've seen him on Twitter.
He hasn't watched all the episodes yet, but already former LA District Attorney Gil Garcetti is no fan of the People versus OJ Simpson. Garcetti, 74, who oversaw the prosecution of the fallen football legend, has just started watching the FX miniseries. I've watched the first 3 episodes, but the rest of it I've recorded, said Garcetti, the LA prosecutor, for 2 terms from 1992 to 2000. They're making up the dialogue. It's very misleading, he said. Well, of course, it's called dramatization. In an exclusive interview, Garcetti, whose son is Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti. Oh, I didn't know that. Huh.
I just mentioned it like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. I didn't hear you mention that. When did you mention that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, Eric Garcetti was his son, and now he's running Los Angeles.
I know. When did you mention it? I didn't hear you mention that at all.
I think I might have said it kind of quietly. I don't know if Chad heard me, but I definitely said it. When you mentioned Gil Garcetti, and I was like, no, Eric Garcetti is running the city. But I said it kind of quiet, so.
Oh, that was like an hour and a half ago.
It wasn't. It was not.
Yes,
it was not. You just mentioned Gil Garcetti like 5 minutes ago.
No. It was
Yes.
like an hour and a half ago.
No.
Yeah, go back and watch the tape.
You might have mentioned it an hour and a half ago, but you also mentioned it 5 minutes ago, right before you brought up this article.
Well, that was 30 seconds ago. Anyway, and other high-profile failures and successes, including cases against Michael Jackson and Eric and Lyle Menendez. Oh, come on, New York Post, really? Is that what you're going to do to me?
But it's the failed OJ...
Banner.
Where'd it go?
Stupid banner. All right.
But it's the failed OJ Simpson prosecution.
But it's a failed OJ Simpson prosecution that has marred his legacy, and Garcetti confesses crucial mistakes were made, including allowing prosecutor Marcia Clark to take the lead. She wasn't my choice. I didn't pick her, he said, almost coldly. Garcetti said, and he's the boss of the office, so he kind of did pick her, but we'll see what happened here. Garcetti said Clark lobbied to take the lead, and he acquiesced. So you did pick her. Basically, is what you're saying, Garcetti. Later, prior to jury selection, he contemplated giving the case to more seasoned prosecutor Bill Hodgman, but Hodgman collapsed during a strategy meeting from a chronic heart defect.
What an asshole.
Dick. Marcia is a very good lawyer, but one of the things with her was that she didn't heed the advice of our trial consultant, who told her not to pick African-American women, particularly black mothers, for the jury. He said, noting that 8 black women wound up on the panel. She didn't listen. And once she did that, there was no chance that we would get a guilty verdict, although I still thought we'd get 2 or 3 jurors to hold out for a hung jury. Hi,
I really think it should have been tried in Santa Monica. It should have been tried with a white jury, honestly.
Garcetti said he was actually preparing for a second trial of the century long before the courtroom drama ended, but he began to have serious doubts about even managing a hung jury about midway through the 10-month trial. I never told anyone this story before. He said, I went to a function, a Hollywood agents function, and everyone was there talking about the OJ trial. Now, there was this one African-American couple, an agent and her husband, who was a PhD. Naturally, I steered clear of the trial talk, but what the PhD told me was that he thought OJ was guilty, but he'd still vote not guilty, and that floored me.
Wow.
I asked him how he could vote not guilty if he knew he was guilty. I asked him how he would explain that to his kids. Why do you have to fucking explain it to your kids? And he just dropped his head and said he didn't know. That's when I knew I had a big problem, Garcetti said. He realized in that moment how much race would factor into the case. Garcetti sought out the advice of former President Jimmy Carter, who was in LA for his work with the Habitat for Humanity. We met, and what he told me was a punch to the stomach, Garcetti said. Carter looked at me and said, Gil, forget it. They're going to find him not guilty. The verdict was about payback. There have been too many blacks who have been convicted and even executed. OJ is not going to do it again, Carter told him.
They're not going to murder his wife again. Definitely not.
Yeah. He said an emotional Clark was no match for Simpson's vaunted dream team of Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, Alan Dershowitz, and F. Lee Bailey. Garcetti said they demanded and received a speedy trial because they were sure that the sympathy in the black community for Simpson would dissipate over time and prosecutors would find more evidence.
It kind of went the opposite way, didn't it?
They also knew that I couldn't change prosecutors, he said, referring to the ill Hodgman. Also, we would have found those Bruno Magli shoes. Well, that's a little bit of speculation. We would have found those Bruno Maglio shoes and we would have had him. Garcetti said of the shoes, Simpson denied owning that were worn by the killer. He said the office had located photos of Simpson wearing the shoes. During a strategy meeting, Hodgman began to perspire greatly, and suddenly he was on the floor of his office, and paramedics were quickly on the scene to rush him to a hospital, Garcetti said. Further tests revealed he had a chronic heart defect, which is something they usually find during an autopsy, Garcetti said. The case saved his life because he probably would have died if that episode didn't happen, and it happened because of the trial. Ooh,
really?
Maybe they should charge him with murder like they did the other.
So this case gave him a heart attack, which saved his life? Okay, all right, if you say so.
The January 1994 Northridge earthquake also worked into Simpson's favor. It removed any chance, as many had suggested, for Garcetti to move the trial venue to more affluent Santa Monica, where a wealthier and wider jury might have decided differently. The court in Santa Monica had been wrecked by the earthquake, so we had to have it downtown.
I had no idea.
They built it on the 9th floor of the Superior Court downtown, a courtroom to handle high-profile, high-security, and high-media cases like OJ's, so we had to have it there.
I didn't know that. They didn't. That's actually kind of fascinating. I mean, they've rebuilt it since, obviously, but that's a detail I never knew. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Go on.
Yeah. The failed prosecution of the LA cops accused of beating motorist Rodney King and other high-profile cases also happened on Garcetti's watch. Just 6 months prior to Simpson's slow-speed freeway chase in the Ford Bronco, the first murder case against the Menendez brothers resulted in a hung jury. The siblings claimed they shot and killed their parents in 1989 after years of physical and sexual abuse. They were again tried by Garcetti in 1996, convicted of murder, and sentenced to life in prison. So maybe he was preparing for that trial, so he didn't do this one directly. I don't know. Menendez, 47, has twice been married while in prison. What?
What?
He was married twice while in prison.
You don't hear that a lot.
Yeah, wow. All right.
Good for him.
Eric, now 45, also tied the knot behind bars. I can't pretend to tell you what goes through the minds of these women, Garcetti said. They're sick people in the world. Garcetti also handled the first public accusations of child molestation against Michael Jackson. His office began investigating Jacko in 1993. Stupid banners. After 13-year-old Jordan Chandler told a therapist that he'd been repeatedly molested by the pop star. If we get talking about, I think that's all we have. If it were a white guy, a white Heisman Trophy winner, there's no way that anyone else would have gotten 33 years for that. What? So Simpson got a raw deal when he was convicted and sentenced to 33 years in prison in Nevada for armed robbery. Well, he served, 6 years and got out?
Something like that. I'm
All right,
surprised that he would say that, actually.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting, the reason why he didn't want Marcia Clark on the trial. It wasn't her first choice. Well, all right, there we go. Chandler, any last words?
It's really unfortunate that Darden and Marcia ended up screwing this up so badly. I mean, I haven't watched the entire trial all the way through, but by the time that they got to closing, he could have delivered a much stronger closing argument. He could have been much more impassioned. Delivery is so much about the enthusiasm in your voice and showing that you care about these victims and reminding the people on the jury that there are 2 people who died here brutally and horrifically. And that man sitting over there, he's the killer. You need to convict him. You need to take him off the streets. I mean, he could have so easily done that. I don't understand why he didn't. And he ends up, he and Marcia both are talking about Mark Fuhrman, and they're pointing to all of the things that went wrong with the choices that they made in terms of the witnesses that they put on. And you know what? At some point, you're just going to have to zip your lips and shut up about the things that look bad for you. Talk about the things that matter. It doesn't matter how bad you fumbled it. They could have pulled it out with this closing. If they had delivered a really strong closing, a Barry Scheck style closing, if Barry Scheck had been, in the opposite position, he would have won this case. Barry Scheck could have gotten OJ convicted if he was the prosecutor. He could have delivered an excellent closing argument. It's abhorrent and it's unfortunate. I do think that the verdict was correct, but it's just, there were so many problems with the way that the city of Los Angeles handled it. And I'm kind of ashamed and disappointed. Just as an Angelino. Those are my last
Remy
thoughts.
_legal. That's where you need to go to get more of this type of opinion right there. Remy _legal. Go to her page, like it, subscribe, do everything you need to do.
I might do a video on what my closing arguments would be. That could be fun. And you could come on for that if you'd like.
You should. You should do that. That would be awesome.
It'd be really, really, really fun.
And for me, hi, I'm Legal Vices. You know that because you're here. Got 177 of you here, 179 likes. Woohoo! Thank you so much, mods, for being here today and doing all sorts of moddy things. Let's shut down our poll. Our poll is almost where we left it. The like and subscribe poll was, is OJ a murderer? 56 of you said murder fits him like a glove. 18% of you said he should be as free as Cato's rent. And 25% of you said uncertain as a slow speed chase. All right, that's the end of the poll. That's the end of our OJ stream for this week. Let's see, we got about 5 weeks left, maybe 6.
We'll
get through it.
But I'm really excited about the trial that's coming up. So.
Yep, Darden is we're done with Darden next week, and then it'll be on to the defense, and then Marcia does the rebuttal.
The defense should be fun. I'm looking forward to watching defense closing. That'll be great.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I hope.
Not so much rebuttal, but
All right, mods. Again, thank you, mods, for being here. Thank you for doing your moddy best. Chat, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us on our little old Thursday chill stream. which I like to call the MST3K chill stream, where we just relax, we watch, we make some witty comments, we break down the OJ Simpson trial. Now we're going to do something a little weird here today. On our way out, because it's the year end, and because MST3K is doing a 24-hour, all day, every day until the end of the year stream, we're gonna send y'all over to MST3K when we're done here, because why not? Let's all go raid MST3K's year-end marathon stream. So, all right, I'm not sure what movie they're showing right now because I haven't been paying attention, but there you go. Let's go. We'll see you all tomorrow, where we're gonna watch the competency hearing for Aguilar Mendez, the Florida case where the Guatemalan immigrant kid was charged with aggravated manslaughter of a police officer because a cop died about 5 minutes after arresting the kid. That's where we're going to be tomorrow. We'll see you there. Chandler, goodbye. Good night. Dogs, goodbye. Oh, dog. We're down to singular. Dog, good night. And all of you, take care. And whatever you do, whoever you're with, enjoy your legal vices. Let's all go laugh and yuck it up with MST3K. Lorax saying oot.